Aethelgard Prime was humanity's crown jewel, a testament to what our species could achieve when united by purpose and guided by principle. Not a colony world founded in desperation, but a deliberate creation, a grand experiment in sustainable, harmonious living across the stars. Orbiting a benevolent yellow sun, its surface was a vibrant tapestry of bioluminescent forests and crystalline rivers. But its true marvels were the Sky-Spires. Two colossal structures, named the Ascendant and the Harmony, pierced Aethelgard's cerulean heavens. They were not mere buildings, but self-contained ecosystems, vertical cities housing millions. Each spire was a fusion of organic architecture and advanced technology, growing skyward like immense, living trees, their upper reaches almost touching the orbital space lanes. They were symbols of peace, prosperity, and human ingenuity, living. Proof that humanity, once plagued by ancient conflicts, had truly evolved. Aethelgard Prime's society was built on cooperation, innovation, and an unwavering commitment to the well-being of all its citizens. Medical advancements had eradicated most diseases. Energy was clean and abundant. Education was universal, and the arts flourished. There was no military, no police force in the traditional sense. Order was maintained by a network of citizen guardians, community-focused volunteers who resolved disputes and managed emergencies with empathy and efficient resource allocation. The wider galactic concordance admired Aethelgard. It was a model for sustainable growth, a beacon of human maturity. Other species saw it as proof that humanity, despite its chaotic origins, could achieve genuine utopia. It was a world entirely without malice, entirely without fear. This profound peace was shattered without warning. From the deep void, a rogue faction, the Xylos Remnants, emerged. They were a nihilistic extremist group, a fractured offshoot of a species once brought to the brink by Concordance intervention. They abhorred what they perceived as the Concordance's imposition of order, their very existence a defiance of established galactic peace. They saw Aethelgard Prime's perfection. As an insult, its peace a fragile illusion. They sought to unravel the very fabric of galactic harmony by striking at its most serene symbol. Their weapon was crude but effective. Ancient, repurposed asteroid harvesters, modified into kinetic energy weapons, cloaked and accelerated to unimaginable velocities. No energy signatures, no FTL wakes. They were ghosts, delivering death. The attack was precisely calculated, surgically precise. At 0846, Aethelgard's Standard Time, a silent dark mass slammed into the Ascendant at its midsection. No warning sirens, no energy shields. The impact was cataclysmic. Miles of living architecture groaned, then tore open, spewing millions of tons of composite material and precious atmosphere into the pristine sky. The entire spire, impossibly immense, began to lean, groaning in its death throes. 17 minutes later, at 0903, a second impact tore into the harmony. The sister spire, witness to its siblings' agony, now shared its fate. The upper third of the harmony sheared off, tumbling end over end, a colossal ruin descending towards the crystalline forests below. Aethelgard Prime, a world that knew no fear, was suddenly engulfed in chaos, in incomprehensible destruction. The Sky-Spires, symbols of peace, now rained down devastation. Millions were trapped, billions watched in horror. The Xylos Remnants broadcast a single chilling message across galactic frequencies. Perfection is a lie. Your peace is an illusion. Fall! They expected panic. They expected despair. They expected the vaunted human spirit to shatter. They were wrong. The initial shock was absolute. Telepathic species across the concordance recoiled from the raw, unfiltered wave of terror and disbelief emanating from Aethelgard. For a species that had cultivated peace for centuries, the concept of such deliberate malice was alien, devastating. on. The ground, in the sprawling, elegant city of Ilana, situated at the base of the spires, Captain Aris Thorn, head of the Citizen Guardian Search and Rescue Division, watched in numb horror as the Ascendant began its slow, inevitable collapse. His comms, usually serene with routine reports, exploded into a cacophony of distress signals, pleas, and choked cries. His first instinct, honed by simulations of impossible scenarios he'd hoped would never be real, was not panic. It was action. All available Guardians, Priority 1 deployment to the base of the Ascendant. Establish perimeter, triage zones, and immediate debris identification. Activate all autonomous rescue drones, medical teams, stand by for mass casualties, energy shields, direct all power to critical infrastructure. Forget the decorative emitters. Thorn barked, his voice cutting through the noise with chilling clarity. Across the city, across the planet, millions of Olarian, who had never known a true emergency, felt the collective terror. But amidst that terror, something else ignited. A flicker. A spark. Dr. Lena Petrova, a renowned xenolinguist on Aethelgard, had been lecturing on ancient Terran poetry when the harmony was struck. The blast had torn open her university's upper levels, sending debris raining down. She saw fear in the eyes of her students, a fear she had never witnessed before. But then she saw something else. A young student, his arm bleeding profusely, ignored his own injury to help an elder who had fallen. Another, trembling uncontrollably, began directing others to safety, his voice cracking but resolute. A janitorial bot, programmed for cleaning, had its protocols overridden by an impromptu human command and began clearing debris. This was not a trained military response. This was something deeper. This was instinct. The instinct to protect, to help, to endure. The ancient, dormant flame of human resilience rekindled in the ashes of their shattered peace. "We need every able body," Petrova shouted, tearing a strip from her gown to staunch a bleeding student's arm. "Forget what you were taught. Think, adapt, help each other." The Xylo's remnants, monitoring Aethelgard's communications, expected the collapse of all order. They expected a people accustomed to perfection to shatter into selfish panic. Instead, they heard, "I'm coming for you. Hold on." "Does anyone need medical assistance? I have first aid training." "Form a human chain. Don't look down. Just keep passing the injured." "We are setting up a makeshift command. Post in Sector Gamma. Report in if you're alive." These were not military orders. These were the raw, desperate, and profoundly human commands of ordinary people rising to an unimaginable challenge. The aftermath was a nightmare of dust, twisted metal, and the silent cries of the dying. The once pristine city of Ilana was choked with debris. Millions were trapped in the unstable ruins of the spires, miles above the ground. Captain Thorn, coordinating rescue efforts from a hastily established command center, faced impossible choices. Resources were finite. The sheer scale of the disaster dwarfed any simulation. "We have reports of structural breaches on level 700 of the Ascendant," a Guardian reported, his face grim. "Thousands trapped, atmosphere critical." "Priority 1 is structural stabilization," Thorn responded, his jaw set. "We need engineers to assess the core. Simultaneously, deploy every available climber team and atmospheric patch drone to level 700. We can't save them all if the whole thing comes down." The challenge was not just physical, but psychological. Many Guardians, having never faced such trauma, were on the verge of breakdown. Yet they kept going. One young Guardian, Aris's own nephew, trembled as he guided a rescue bot into a collapsing tunnel. "Uncle Aris, the reports, the numbers, it's too much." "Don't look at the numbers, Leo," Aris said, his voice firm, but gentle. "Look at the person in front of you, that one person. Save them, then find another." This was compartmentalization on a societal scale. Acknowledging the overwhelming horror, but focusing on the immediate tangible act of saving one life, then another. Across the concordance, species watched in horrified awe. The lumina, beings of light, projected patterns of profound sadness, but also of a strange, nascent respect. The Chronos, viewing all timelines, saw futures of despair, but also unexpected futures of defiant rebuilding. Humanity, however, instinctively understood. This was the raw, primal essence of who they were. This was their history. This was 9/11, played out on a galactic scale, with a species that had, for centuries, tried to forget the lessons of its own painful past. Volunteer lines formed spontaneously. Civilians who had never lifted anything heavier than a data slate now worked tirelessly, moving debris, assisting medics, providing comfort. Architects and engineers, their creations destroyed, now worked furiously to stabilize what remained, improvising solutions with salvaged materials and sheer ingenuity. Dr. Petrova, now leading a team of makeshift medical responders, saw the most profound transformations. People who had only known comfort were now working to the point of exhaustion, their hands bleeding, their bodies aching. But their eyes held a fierce determination. I saw a child, no older than 10, comforting a dying elderly Olarian, Petrova recounted later to a concordance observer. The child had never known death, never known suffering, but her instinct was pure, to offer comfort, to be present. The Xylo's remnants, monitoring the distress signals and the rescue efforts, grew increasingly confused. They are suffering. They are dying. Yet, they do not break. They help each other. This is illogical. This is resistance. They had expected the Olarian to disintegrate into self-preservation. They had not accounted for altruism. Days bled into weeks. The rescue efforts were Herculean. The death toll was staggering. But Aethelgard Prime did not shatter. It held. It grieved, yes, but it also rebuilt. The scale of the human response stunned the concordance. They observed. Decentralized command, local citizen guardians, without waiting for centralized orders, took initiative, establishing localized rescue zones, resource allocation, and communication networks. Radical empathy. Individuals from unharmed. Sectors traveled across the planet, risking unstable ground to offer aid, medical supplies, and shelter to survivors. Collective innovation. Engineers from disparate fields collaborated, improvising solutions for structural stabilization, air filtration, and atmospheric recycling, often using salvaged materials in entirely novel ways. Emotional resilience. Despite immense personal loss, survivors actively participated in the rebuilding, finding solace and purpose in collective action. Captain Eris Thorne, haggard but unyielding, addressed the planet in a broadcast from a temporary command center. His voice, rough with exhaustion, resonated with defiant strength. We grieve, we mourn our lost, but we will not be broken. We will rebuild, not just the spires, but our spirit, stronger, more resilient. For every life lost, we will honor them with every life saved, every brick laid, every act of kindness shown. We are Aethelgard, and we will endure. The Xylo's remnants, analyzing Thorne's broadcast, detected no fear, no despair, only a cold, burning resolve. They have been struck at their heart, their symbols destroyed, yet their will is intact. Their response is disproportionate to the damage inflicted. They are evolving. The concordance, seeing this unprecedented display of unity, recognized a profound lesson. Their own species, accustomed to order imposed from above or logic derived from data, lacked this raw, organic, and incredibly powerful capacity for spontaneous self-organization and collective emotional fortitude in the face of utter devastation. They had always viewed humanity's chaotic history as a flaw. Now they saw it as a crucible. The endless cycles of destruction and rebuilding on old Earth had forged a species uniquely capable of enduring the unthinkable. This was not a weakness. This was an ancient, terrifying, and awe-inspiring strength. Years passed. The scars on Aethelgard Prime were deep, etched into the landscape and the hearts of its people. But new structures rose from the ashes, not perfectly symmetrical spires, but elegantly asymmetrical designs, incorporating lessons learned from the collapse. They were beautiful, but also robust, resilient, designed with redundancies and fail-safes that spoke of a new, profound understanding of vulnerability. The memorials for the fallen were everywhere, not grand, stoic monuments, but simple, poignant spaces. Fields of bioluminescent flowers, each light representing a lost life. Walls etched with names, and always, always, quiet spaces for reflection, for remembrance. The Alarian learned the value of grief, not as an end point, but as a part of the human experience, a catalyst for deeper connection. Captain Eris Thorne, now lauded as a hero, dedicated his life to teaching future generations the lessons of the fall. He emphasized not the attack, but the response. "We learned that day," he would tell his students, "that true peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the ability to face conflict, to endure it, and to come out stronger, together." Dr. Lena Petrova, now a leading voice on Aethelgard, penned a seminal work titled The Anatomy of Resilience, Aethelgard and the Human Spirit. In it, she argued that humanity's unique capacity for endurance came from its deeply ingrained social instincts, its ability to find meaning in shared suffering, and its refusal to be defined by its tragedies. The Xylo's remnants, now diminished and scattered, never again attempted such an attack. They had aimed to break the human spirit, but had instead inadvertently forged it anew. They had targeted perfection, and in doing so, had created true, enduring strength. They had sought to sow despair, and had inadvertently reaped a harvest of unity and defiant hope. The Concordance, in a profound shift in its understanding of humanity, began to integrate more of human social and psychological principles into its own structures. They studied humanity's history not as a cautionary tale, but as a textbook on resilience. They learned about the concepts of post-traumatic growth, of community self-reliance, and of the profound, often irrational power of hope in the darkest of hours. Aethelgard Prime, though forever changed, became a living monument to human endurance. It was no longer a symbol of untouched peace, but a symbol of peace forged in fire, peace earned through sacrifice, peace rebuilt with unwavering human hands. The impact of the Spires' fall reverberated across the vast human diaspora. On every colony world, in every starship, the story of Aethelgard became a powerful narrative, a reminder of their shared heritage, their collective capacity for profound courage and unshakable unity. For many humans who had only known the sterile perfection of off-world life, the raw, visceral accounts from Aethelgard served as a reawakening. It reminded them of the messy, often painful, but undeniably powerful origins of their species. It reconnected them to the ancient, shared memory of old Earth, to the stories of sacrifice and resilience that had defined their ancestors. The Concordance, after observing the post-crisis response, began to implement humanitarian aid protocols that prioritized local initiative and community-driven recovery rather than top-down, purely logistical solutions. They sent their own engineers and medics to Aethelgard, not to command, but to learn, to integrate into the human-led recovery efforts, to witness firsthand the power of collective will. One Vespida architect, a member of a collective that valued Strict adherence to established blueprints, spent months on Aethelgard. He observed human engineers improvising solutions in real time, adapting designs on the fly, collaborating with a fluidity he had never witnessed. He saw them mourn, then pick up tools, then share a meal, then argue, then build, all within the span of a single day. The humans, they create order from chaos, not by eliminating chaos, but by embracing it, he reported back to his collective. Their designs are not perfect, but they are alive. They grow. The reconstructed spires, now known as the Twin Sentinels, stood as a testament. They were stronger, their design philosophies reflecting the lessons learned. They were built with community spaces for shared remembrance, with adaptable sections for unforeseen needs, and with public art that depicted not just peace, but also the struggle for it. The spirit of 9/11, that profound paradox of overwhelming destruction, met. With overwhelming compassion and unwavering resolve, became not just a human historical event, but a galactic lesson. It taught the concordance that true strength lay not in avoiding pain, but in the capacity to bear it, to share it, and to rise from its ashes, not alone, but together, hand in human hand. Aethelgard Prime had been attacked to break its spirit. Instead, it had found its soul. It had become a beacon of resilience, a living example that hope, unity, and an unshakable belief in each other could overcome even the most unthinkable devastation. The day the Spires fell was not the day Aethelgard collapsed. It was the day it truly began to stand tall.